Hey everybody, Chris the old ass retro gamer here, and I'm going to be doing another pickups video today. Sure, I did one not too long ago with Radical Reggie, but these games are piling up and I need to talk about them, like, right now. Here we go, gonna get right into it, going from the oldest to the newest games. Cosmic Arc for the Atari 2600, developed by Magic, which is one of my favorite developers for the console, and Cosmic Arc was one of my favorite games back in the day. It's super simplistic, obviously, but it is a lot of fun. I just wish I had a 2600 to play this on. Where's that HD 2600 console? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? A long time ago, maybe 2 years ago, I purchased a Sharp Twin Famicom. It plays Famicom and Famicom Disk System games, and I primarily bought it because I wanted to be able to play the Disk System games, which is something we never got over here in the West. I kept ignoring the Famicom part of it. Well, that stops right now. I've been neglecting it far too long, so I've started picking up Famicom games here and there when I find them for decent prices. And you're gonna have to excuse me if I mispronounce these because I do not speak Japanese. Moryu Senki Madara. This is an RPG, and I can hear you saying it through the interwebs right now.
RPGs are extremely text-heavy. You're not gonna be able to read anything.
I do have a retro freak, and you can apply translation patches, which this one has. And this one has a massive freaking cartridge. Look at this thing compared to what a normal Famicom cartridge looks like.
God damn.
This next one, on the other hand, is extremely rad. Akumaju Densetsu, also known as Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. And I can also hear you saying,
Why did you buy that? It has an American version.
yes, it does. But the thing about this one is it has a special chipset in it that gives it extra channels of sound that make it sound so much better than the typical NES game. In Japanese or in English, the game is still rad as hell. Speaking of the Famicom Disk System, I did pick up a few more games. Actually, a lot more games. Here's a two-parter. Famicom Mukashi Banashi Yuyuki Kohen and Famicom Mukashi Banashi Yuyuki Zenpen. I do believe these are based on Journey to the West, but since I can't get translations for them, I can't really tell what's going on in the story. But they are extremely fun. They're action-adventure games. Monty no Doki Doki Daisasu, otherwise known as Monty on the Run. This is a reworked port of a game that I do believe came out on the ZX Spectrum. It's a side-scrolling platformer. It's actually pretty fun. Nazo no Murasame Jo, otherwise known as the Mysterious Murasame Castle. This was released to the Nintendo eShop. I did download it to my 3DS because I wanted to try a Famicom Disk System game. I'd never played one before. And it's pretty fun. It's like a Legend of Zelda type game where you play as a samurai and you need to infiltrate this castle. Hikari Shinwa Palutena no Kagami. Yeah. This is Kid Icarus. I didn't want to pay $120 for a CIB version, so I just bought the Disk System version for $20. Although this does have some differences audio-wise. The Reapers make a different sound when they're alerted to your presence, and some of the music has a little bit more bass to it. Still a great game, one of my favorites. Arumana no Kiseki, or Miracle of Arumana. It's a side-scrolling platformer action game that reminds me a little bit of if you were to take Contra and mix it with Indiana Jones. It is super fun. Little frustrating. There's some sections where the enemy placement is just infuriating, but other than that, it's kind of rad. Dr. Mario, yeah, you know Dr. Mario, yeah. Tetris type game. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yes, it's by LGN, but it was developed by Rare, and as I've said time and time again, I want all the games by Rare. Managed to snag a copy of Shinobi. Great game, although not the best port of it. But as a side-scrolling action game, it's pretty cool. And Golvelius Valley of Doom. It's a Legend of Zelda clone for the Master System, but I'm not complaining because it's a very fun clone. I really dig the music, and the enemy designs are really kind of cartoony and amusing. No Escape for the Sega Genesis. There's nothing to write home about. It's okay. It's a side-scrolling platformer. Reason I wanted it was Psygnosis. Although I'm not going to be doing Psygnosis Quest videos anymore. I'm just going to mix those games into the standard pickup videos because, yeah. For maybe a space of maybe 2 months, I was just absolutely obsessed with collecting for handheld consoles, especially the Game Boy line. You know, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. I just kept finding awesome stuff at really, really good prices, because I'm a thrifty mofo, and I don't want to pay top dollar for things if I can avoid it. My handheld games collection just tripled within the space of 2 months. Fortified Zone, it's a very underrated game. I find it to be reminiscent of, like, Metal Gear. It's a lot of fun, really hard. Revenge of the Gator, it's a pinball game, nothing special, although this was one of the first games I owned for the Game Boy back in the day, so obviously I want to collect all those games I did own when I was a kid, so this was kind of required. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. LGN, I know. quit your bitching. This is the Terminator 2 game that's actually not too bad. I don't like the one for the NES or the Super Nintendo and Genesis. There's side-scrolling action levels, there's driving levels, there's sections where you're doing puzzles, where you have to like connect circuits and stuff like that. There's some where you're riding on a motorcycle, running away from the truck, like in the ravine. It is a little hard. Sometimes it is a little vague. It's probably the best version of a Terminator 2 game you're gonna get. Dr. Mario, it's the same as the NES version, except in black and white, or green and black. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan. Not the best Turtles game for the Game Boy. There are better ones, the sequels. This one I did have back in the day, and I loved it, so had to have it. Find it a little slow nowadays, but it is still very fun. Metroid 2 Return of Samus. This one took some doing to get. This is probably my least favorite Metroid game in the series, you know, the ones that actually are part of the storyline. There's some design decisions in here that just make it so frustrating to play sometimes. But there is a remake out there for the 3DS, so could that be better? And Gargoyle's Quest. Yeah.
What the?
It's a spin-off of the Ghosts and Goblins games. You play as Firebrand, who is one of those evil-ass demons that annoy the hell out of you in Ghosts and Goblins for the NES. Turned it into a side-scrolling platformer. This did start to spin off into its own thing and culminated in Demon's Crest for the Super Nintendo, which is a game I am actively searching for right now. And I also managed to get this Game Boy charger, although it is missing the plug, but I'm sure that's pretty easy to get a hold of, but not sure if this actually works because I don't own an original Game Boy, so Managed to snag just one game for the Game Gear, Shinobi 2 The Silent Fury. For a little while, this was really expensive. It has started to drop in price, which is why I bought it, and now the original game is starting to shoot up in price, while this lowers, so I don't know what's going on, but when it comes to the side-scrolling Shinobi games, this one is actually one of the best ones, as far as I'm concerned. It's super fun. Addams Family Values. This was actually recommended to me by Nintendo way back when we did the top 5 games based on movies video. It's kind of like a top-down Legend of Zelda clone. It's actually not too bad. The music is awesome. And Mortal Kombat 3, because Cobra Command. This is a cartoon full-motion video game where you are in the cockpit of an Apache chopper. You're flying through the city, you're flying through the desert, you're just blowing shit out of the sky. It's actually not too bad. Echo the Dolphin, The Tides of Time. This is actually Echo the Dolphin 2. It's the exact same game as the Genesis version, except it has CG cutscenes and it has way better music. Obviously, it's on a CD. It's going to. Duh. Iron Helix, another full-motion video game. It's kind of like a first-person game where you're going through this installation trying to stop a bomb from going off. Lots of full-motion video with real actors who are terrible. It's okay. The Hive. Apparently this is a very uncommon game, but it's kind of a full motion video game. I do remember this came out for the PC, so this is a port. Reminds me a lot of Starblade. It was released by Trimark Interactive. Trimark was a film distribution company. They did a lot of low budget movies like Warlock 2. It's actually not too bad. It's kind of fun. Gran Turismo. Got this at a half-price Books warehouse sale for a whopping $1. And I did a trade recently with Nintendo for Silent Hill. I did have Silent Hill before, but it was the greatest hits version. This one is the black label that actually has that silver kind of reflective cover for the manual. Awesome. Suck it, greatest hits! A friend of mine contacted me out of the blue and said, hey, I'm trying to clear out a lot of junk in my condo and I have all this Nintendo 64 stuff I don't want. Would you like any of it? Out of everything in the picture he sent me, there was only 2 games I didn't already own. He said, make me an offer, and I offered $50 for both of them, and surprisingly, he said yes. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Super Smash Bros. This is the Great Kart version, though. If you recall from the pickups video that I did last time with Reggie, I talked about that I picked up a few GameCube games. Still don't have the console, but these games are super, super cheap, in box, complete. So I keep on finding them and I keep on saying, sure, why not? Let's do this. I might as well just get a complete set of it because there's only like 12 games for the thing. The Lost World, Jurassic Park. From what I can tell, it is either a side-scrolling game or it is a 3D motorcycle riding game. It looks okay. But the real winner here is Resident Evil 2. Can't be certain about that since I haven't played it yet. But it is a port of Resident Evil 2, obviously, but instead of being in 3D the way that the PlayStation version was, this one's kind of side-scrolling, I guess. I saw some video of it and it does not look too good, but it's still Resident Evil 2. More way forward goodness with Sabrina, the animated series, Spooked. I do believe this is the second game that WayForward developed for the Game Boy Color that was licensed after Sabrina the Teenage Witch. This one's actually my favorite of the two. It is a side-scrolling platformer that is very well developed, cool music, and it's fun to play. Just hate the license. Commander Keen. This was, I do believe, id Software's first video game ever that they released for shareware back in the day for the PCs, and I got a port to the Game Boy Color. Never knew that it did, but happy to have found it. It's a side-scrolling platformer. It's okay. Duke Nukem for the Game Boy Color? Hells yes.
I've got balls of steel.
This isn't the Duke Nukem you remember. This is the original Duke Nukem. This is the one where it's a side-scrolling platformer and not a first-person shooter. It's okay, I guess. This one, it breaks my heart. Murdered my soul a little bit. Mortal Kombat 4. Quite possibly the worst version of any Mortal Kombat game ever. Unplayable. Pokemon Pinball. I used to play this all the time back in the day. Actually, when it comes to the Game Boy Color, which I was not a huge fan of, this was the game I played the most. I would actually make excuses to go and hide in the bathroom at my old limo job that I had back in the late 90s to go and play this while sitting on the toilet. It's true. Warlocked, which is a very, very underrated RTS. Yes, there were RTS games available for the Game Boy Color, and this one's actually really, really good. Sure, it's kind of hard to control with the pad and not using a mouse. With what you're working with, it's actually top-notch stuff. I love it. This is a definite diamond in the rough for the Game Boy Color. And Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. It's just a reworked version of the original Super Mario Bros. There's like races that you can do if you link two Game Boys together. It's pretty cool. The only problem is the screen is a little bit more zoomed in than it was on the home console version, so you don't get a whole lot of time to react if something's coming at you. But still, it's Super Mario Bros. It's awesome. Alien Hominid, which has awesome character designs by the Behemoth. I do believe they are the same people behind Castle Crashers, which is super popular on the 360. It's a side-scrolling platformer action game that is kind of like Contra, but like a comedic version of Contra, where you play as this little alien here who has a ray gun, and there's government agents coming after you, and you have to make their heads explode. It is crazy and goofy, and it's fun as hell. Godzilla Unleashed. It's a sequel to the Godzilla game that came out originally for the GameCube. It's a one-on-one fighting game with Godzilla characters. It's awesome. The controls, a little sluggish, but for the most part, it's fun. From Russia with Love, 007. One of the most random James Bond games to ever get released. All of the games that came out in the James Bond series for this generation were all about Pierce Brosnan, or the Pierce Brosnan movies. This one took like 14 steps backward and decided to go back to the second James Bond movie with Sean Connery. And they actually managed to finagle Sean Connery to come out and record his voice for this, which is crazy. But it's cool. If you love that movie, you're gonna love this game. And it's actually one of the best Bond games for this generation. Rise of the Kasai, which is the sequel to The Mark of Kree. It's a 3D beat 'em up. This and the original are two of my favorite games for the PS2. I blame these next two on Radical Reggie because in the pickup video that we did last time, he talked about these games, kind of piqued my interest in them. And like I said, when I found Gran Turismo for $1 at that Half Price Books warehouse sale, I found these for $1 also. Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. They're 3D beat-em-ups. They're okay. I don't think they're as awesome as he made them out to be, but they're fun to an extent. The weird thing is, the Silver Surfer game has Jessica Alba's face on it, but for some reason, her face was removed and replaced with someone else's on the original game. Go figure. And Phantom Brave. We only found this at Half Price Books for $10, so I said I had to have it. NIS America, why not? I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it looks like a strategy RPG. 007, Everything or Nothing. It is an isometric action game, which is actually very, very fun. It turns out maybe 90% of the time when a game is ported to the Game Boy Advance, if it was like a first-person shooter or a third-person action game, the console wasn't really known for doing that kind of stuff, so a lot of them were turned into these isometric games like Tron 2.0, Max Payne. This turns out they're actually really, really fun, and they work really well. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. This is one of the games I bought the day that I picked up my Game Boy Advance, and it is still super fun, as was Fire Pro Wrestling. I loved this game back in the day. I had no idea that this is part of this long-running series that actually just ended not too long ago, from what I understand. Revenge of Shinobi. This game is doo-doo. I was under the assumption this was a port of the Sega Genesis game. Actually, it's like a remake of it, and it's not a good one. It's done with pre-rendered graphics, kind of like Donkey Kong Country or Killer Instinct, and it controls like ass. Fortress, which is a castle defense type game. I had this back in the day. I played it, wasn't a huge fan of it. I did not understand what this new genre that this game was a part of was all about. Didn't really enjoy it. Ended up trading it. Now I understand. and I wanted to get it back so I could try it again, and it is actually a lot of fun. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Here's another example of an isometric action game. This is surprisingly fun. Jurassic Park 3 Island Attack. There were like 3 games based on Jurassic Park 3 for the GBA. This one I feel is the best one. It's another isometric action game. Konami knew what they were doing when it came to the Jurassic Park license. I was surprised. Mario vs. Donkey Kong. It is a puzzle platformer, and this is the first in a series of games I did not know were out there. And it saddens me a little bit that I did not, because it is actually really, really fun. Only thing is, the sound on this game is kind of bad. When you play it through a TV, it's super tinny and crackly, and it just, it almost makes your ears bleed. There's a bunch of half-price books near me, and every once in a while they'll have like a random sale where it's, oh, come in on Friday and everything is 30% off. If you come in on Saturday, everything's 40% off. If you come in on Sunday, everything's 50% off. And usually I go on either Friday or Saturday, because by the time Sunday rolls around, everything is gone. But there's also the fact that they will hold things for you. So I went there on Saturday when everything was 40% off, and I picked up a handful of stuff. Some of it you've seen already. There were 2 games that they had for the GBA, complete in box, in one of their cases that I said, I really, really want them, but you know, right now they're kind of expensive. I'll see if they'll hold them for me until tomorrow, when I can get them for 50% off each. And they did. Golden Sun and Golden Sun The Lost Age. Some of the best RPGs available for the GBA, and I was so thrilled to finally have these in my possession. They were each going for $40. Got them for $20. Not sad. Now I have all of the Golden Sun games, because I also have the one for the Nintendo DS, so yay me! And this last game is from a Facebook deal. There was a dude that was selling his whole collection, and there was a big box of games that he had, and out of all of the games in there, there were some that I wanted. Only one of them really caught my eye, and that is Klonoa, Empire of Dreams. It's part of a franchise that is very hard to collect for because the games are very expensive, and I got this for a steal. Side-scrolling platformer where you use enemies to launch you higher into the air to get to higher platforms. Fast-paced and unique, and I love the music, and the controls are... Intellivision Lives, which is a rad compilation of pretty much every Intellivision game out there on one disc. Sadly does not have the Tron games on it because they'd have to license it from Disney, but I upgraded my PS2 copy of Time Splitters 2 to the Xbox because it's easier to do local multiplayer on an Xbox and the graphics are better. Also upgraded my Mortal Kombat 5 Deadly Alliance. Red Ninja End of Honor. It's a third-person beat-em-up where you play as this female ninja, scantily clad as she is, whooping ass all over the place, and it is awesome. Vivendi Universal was not known for making great games back in the day, but this was one of their winners that nobody seemed to give a crap about, so diamond in the rough for the Xbox! Resident Evil 4, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Rogue Ops, and Pikmin frickin' 2! Never played the Pikmin games for the GameCube back in the day, and I'm still regretting it, but now I can, and happy. New Super Mario Bros., Drawn to Life, Populous DS, Mage Knight, Destiny's Soldier. Mage Knight is a board game that got turned into a DS game, so I could not say no because I love me some board games. Might and Magic, Clash of Heroes. I do believe this is also available on the 360. Bloodstone 007. This is a port of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 game. It's been dumbed down a little bit, but it is still a third-person action game. And it works. Warhammer 40k Squad Command. Warhammer games. I just keep finding them. I don't know why. It just happens. I don't know. Real-time strategy game on the DS. Can't go wrong. Lost in Blue 3. This is the final installment of this series on the DS. There was 3 of them for the DS, 1 for the Wii. Picture the Blue Lagoon without all the sex. Oh, man! Guilty Gear Dust Strikers. There's a really cool 4-player mode where it ends up taking up both screens. It is rad. And Sonic Chronicles The Dark Brotherhood. This is a Sonic the Hedgehog RPG, and it is fantastic. Kenka Bancho Badass Rumble. What? It's like if you were to take Yakuza and then make it funny. It's a beat 'em up. You can basically make your own character, give him your own set of moves. It is bizarre, but it is surprisingly addictive and a lot of fun. And because it's Rock Band, I had to have Rock Band Unplugged. Get to play Rock Band on the go. Who am I to say no? Star Ocean: The Last Hope. I know this isn't that international version. I plan on picking that one up also. Sci-fi RPG. I'm all over it. Lego Rock Band. It's a little kid's version of Rock Band, but it does have a completely new song list. Bon Jovi, Foo Fighters, Europe, the Jackson 5. I don't really give a crap about the Lego license, but I do want the songs to be able to play with friends, so yeah. Perfect Dark Zero. This is a prequel to the Nintendo 64 game. Not the greatest thing ever, but once Rare got bought out by Microsoft, they kind of went... Universe at War, Earth Assault. It's a real-time strategy game with aliens. Not too bad. The original Prey for the 360. It's a pretty decent first-person shooter. This is a very early game for the 360, but I'm not complaining because I had fun with it back in the day, and it still holds up pretty well. Well enough to get a sequel, or a remake, whatever you want to call it. Left 4 Dead. I'm surprised I never had this, but a coworker of mine decided to just give me all of the games that her son left behind when he moved out. This was one of them. Not complaining. She also gave me Silent Hill Homecoming, which I've never played before. Everyone told me I'm an idiot for not buying this earlier because apparently this is a great game. I need to set aside some time to play it. And she also gave me Saints Row the Third. I've played some of the games in this series. I find them okay, Grand Theft Auto ripoffs, but this one seems pretty cool. Tales of Vesperia. From what I understand, this is probably one of the best games in the Tales of series. I have not played a whole lot of them. I think I've played 1. I own maybe 4, but I will definitely check this one out, which is why when I saw it at Half Price Books, I said, you're coming home with me. And Raiden Fighters Aces. It is a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, arcade style, of course, but the cool thing about this is it has 3 different Raiden games on it. It has Raiden Fighters 2, and Raiden Fighters Jet. Super happy because I love the Raiden series. Saw 2 Flesh and Blood. It's a bunch of mini games and puzzles and all that. That just takes place in the Saw universe. It's okay. Wanted Weapons of Fate. I've wanted this game ever since it was released. I downloaded the demo back in the day and I thought it was awesome. I just never got around to buying it. But who wouldn't want to play a game where you can curve bullets? Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax. It's a one-on-one fighting game, but I just have to read you what the description on the back of this says. Choose your envoy of hope. Get ready for a dream duel of epic proportions in Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax. Featuring an all-star cast of popular characters from over 20 different Dengeki Bunko novels set against Sega-themed worlds. What? Developed by Ecole and French Bread. What? This 2D fighter mashup makes the most unlikely of character matchups a reality. Will you choose to build your ultimate fantasy team? I don't know who any of these people are, so I guess. Journey Collector's Edition. I've been trying to get a hold of this for a while. It's been in my Amazon wish list for years. It's 3 games by That Game Company, and it has Flow, Flower, and Journey on it, Journey being the best of the bunch. And there's a whole bunch of other mini games that the company made back in the day. Really cool package. I like it. Iron Man 2, because licensed games. Dragon's Dogma. Genji, Days of the Blade. Motorstorm Apocalypse. I do believe this is part 2 in the series. I think there was 3 of them available for the PS3. Graphically, amazing. Control-wise, And Rayman Origins. I'm surprised I did not own this. I thought I did not. I found it at Half Price Books, and I was looking through my phone to see if I had it, and I didn't. Awesome platformer, because I absolutely love Rayman Legends, and this is the game that came out before that. It's like playing a living cartoon. It is amazing. Dragon Quest Swords. Picture a Dragon Quest game where you use the Wiimote as a sword and it's in the first person and you are doing fighting. It is kind of like the Star Wars lightsaber battle game that's for the Wii, but it works better. Still doesn't control perfectly, but it's fun, and it's definitely a workout. And like I said with that Lost in Blue, there was one for the Wii, Lost in Blue Shipwrecked. Picture the DS game expanded upon to take advantage of what the Wii can do. And it sort of has some RPG elements, a lot of mini games, not quite as fun as the DS games. And Valhalla Knights Eldar Saga. It's a rad-ass RPG from Xseed. The graphics are really dreary and dark, and it kind of gets on my nerves a little bit, but when it comes to like the things you can do with like the magic and everything, god damn, it's impressive looking for a Wii game.